Hi again. One of the things I want to talk about is the step-by-step process of going from mood board to silhouettes, sketches, and then the turnaround. So for this project, I'm thinking about a character based on my cat, who you maybe heard in the last video, named Dr. Pancake, and thinking about what if he actually was a tiny little doctor in a cartoon form. And so my mood board, right? I wanted some images of cats standing up on their hind legs. So I went to the internet, found a couple images. I went to Google and I found a couple of images of doctors wearing lab coats because I'm thinking that's part of the costume. Thinking that he might wear these type of shoes. Thinking about some examples of styles that are previously done of cats in graphic form, and then thinking about sort of color palette and overall sort of styling down from images in Carol at the End of the World. Or if I, maybe the other side is like a very heavy sort of line, Dexter's Laboratory style. Um, so from this, I start working on silhouettes, and I'm giving myself a, here we go, let's unlock this layer, go in, right? Going through each one, really thinking about how I can manipulate them pretty easily. So for example, in my process, and I'm just going to duplicate this so I can come back to this layer. Hold down L, sample all of these guys, Command T, shrink it down, shrink it down, just so I can move them over. And then Command D, hold down L. Let's grab this guy again. So I'll grab this guy, and I'm going to hold down Option and Command, and that allows me, or Option and Control, allows me to duplicate it really quickly. And I'm going to do Control T, scale it back up. Control D to deselect. So here, right, this allows me to then take this, right, I can block this out, go to my brushes, it's going to use the hard round, just making sure I have the right one set up, Control D or Command D, right, that allows me to quickly sort of gesture thinking about, okay, what if my hand is there? Or, right, what if I want to make these ears a little bit flatter? I can select Control T. Since what I was trying to say is when I have Control T and this little setting is set back, right, this is going to scale my elements proportional. So I actually don't have to hold down to shift. But if I do want to sort of manipulate it and have it not sort of listen to that sort of scaling, then I want to hold down shift, and that allows me some manipulation. Or I can hold down Control and sort of stretch it out as we go. Of course, I can also just erase and sort of flatten it out, right? So this gives me a couple of options to sort of work with. It's a little bit more bunny rabbit than cat, if I'm being honest, in that sort of moment, right? But, right? Or just maybe one is sort of up. Right, that gives something kind of interesting. So then again, I would select this whole thing. Actually, I'm gonna get rid of these guys. So I'm gonna go back in, select this guy, duplicate it, Command D or Control D, and that's where I can think about, maybe I want a different sort of bottom for this. Like, I'm looking at this one, and maybe I want the legs to be a little longer, and the top to just be a little bit stouter. Select this whole thing, Command T, shrink it down. Like maybe this cat is just extremely long, right? How would that sort of feel? I like the idea of the lab coat sort of going in, again, coming in, selecting. I can also erase. Right? And maybe they're going to have maybe they're more frenetic. Again, not worrying too much. Right. Right. Or get rid of this, a little bit over here, right? So these are all sort of options that you could go with, right? Sort of that continual experimentation as you're going, right? And like, I would just keep, even if you don't like them, just keep it. And like here, I'm like, oh, actually, what if this character had instead, right, like longer sort of sleeves? And just that sort of simple change allows me to sort of imagine, right, and picture by having the comparison next to it. Like, that actually gives a little bit sort of difference to it. I'm gonna go back to my regular sort of ears, right? And then I would come in and maybe these legs are a little bit too big, right? We're going for anthropomorphic a little bit here, right? Maybe this whole thing is a little bit longer. So even just seeing the difference between these two, you can feel that different sort of sensibility. One almost has like a magician sort of feel if you're looking at it as a silhouette. But for my process, I went in, right? I started working with my silhouettes. I chose one that I liked or a couple that I liked, turned down the opacity, and just started drawing directly on top of them. And so I worked out, I wanted to do a couple examples just because I was thinking like, how would these sort of feel? This guy, I sort of duplicated over, right? Started out with a cane, and I just used my pencil brush to be able to sort of trace directly on top of. So if I went with this one, right, coming in, thinking about, right, maybe this one has just a bit bigger of a lab coat, was a little bit more exaggerated, and again following the sort of form that I have set up for myself. In this case, this guy's hand is sort of in his pocket, and you can always add on. You don't have to totally follow the bounds. It's more of a general sort of suggestion. But this gives you just a little bit of an idea of how I might start to work, and he is a happy cat. Again, super rough, but sort of giving myself a little bit of an idea of how I might pursue this. Maybe it's sunglasses instead. Actually, nah. Just little dots. Right, maybe it's a unibrow sort of cat. And I just like the idea of them wearing slippers. Right, so when you then turn this off, you've got a couple ideas to work from.